Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are going to tap into a truly amazingly powerful strategy for getting back our natural drive, our innate creativity, and our social fearlessness. We're drawing straight from the brilliant mind of Steve Chandler, specifically looking at a concept from his book, 100 Ways to Motivate Yourself, Change Your Life Forever. The specific strategy we're zooming in on today, leaving high school forever. It sounds super simple, right? But trust me, the psychological implications of this are absolutely massive. Okay, let's just dive right into it. I want you to ask yourself, and be totally honest here, are you still stuck in high school? It's kind of a provocative question, but Steve Chandler points out that a lot of us feel like we've been left completely stranded in high school forever. It's almost as if something shifted during those 4 years that we've just never been able to shake off. Honestly, so many of us are unknowingly walking around emotionally stranded in this adolescent mindset, and we're just letting it completely dictate our adult lives, our careers, and even our relationships.
So, Section 1, Stuck in High School. Let's take a look at the adolescent mindset.
To really understand how to unlock our personal motivation today, we first need to look backward at our own timeline. Just look at the stark contrast in the transformation we go through as we age. Back in our earlier, carefree childhoods, we were all these incredibly creative dreamers, right? Just filled with a boundless sense of energy and wonder. But then, high school hits, and something gets completely flipped upside down. Literally, for the very first time in our lives, we start intensely fearing what other people think of us. All of a sudden, Chandler notes, our ultimate overriding mission in life simply becomes not being embarrassed. We become so terrified of looking bad that we actually make it a conscious point not to take any risks whatsoever.
Which brings us to Section 2, the belt loop catastrophe. Let's see this anxiety in action. To show you just how genuinely absurd this adolescent anxiety really is, let's look at this fantastic, hilarious story Chandler shares. He's walking home from school one day with his friend, Richard. Picture this, they're just walking along, totally minding their own business, when all of a sudden, Richard stops dead in his tracks. His face is completely frozen with absolute horror. Chandler says he looked at his buddy and honestly thought Richard was about to suffer some kind of medical emergency. But Richard didn't even say a word. He just pointed straight down at his pants. What's really fascinating here is the sheer, unadulterated panic in Richard's realization. He finally manages to speak and just blurts out, "I spent the whole day like this." And what was this catastrophic, world-ending issue? He wordlessly shows Chandler that his belt had simply missed a single loop on his pants. Yep, that was it. One missed belt loop. But in Richard's teenage mind, this was an unmitigated disaster. Chandler explains that it was obviously impossible for Richard to measure what everybody thought of him as they passed him in the halls that day, but his brain went wild. Did they see the missed loop? What were they whispering about? In his mind, the perceived damage to his reputation was beyond repair. He literally felt like his entire social standing was completely and permanently destroyed by a minor, barely noticeable wardrobe malfunction. All right, Section 3, gamifying social fearlessness. This is how we neutralize that anxiety.
Because let's be real, this fear doesn't magically vanish the day we get our diplomas. We carry it with us. Chandler observes this firsthand when he conducts his professional motivation seminars. He loves taking questions from the audience, but watch what happens. Grown adults completely freeze up. Chandler says he frequently sees these painfully adolescent looks of self-consciousness on people's faces when they're just thinking about the simple risk of asking a question in front of a group. I mean, think about that. These are seasoned professionals, yet they're terrified to raise a hand because they're trapped in that exact same high school fear of embarrassment. Chandler calls this a deeply ingrained habit of worrying more about what others think of our thoughts than we do about our own thinking. It starts in high school, but man, it can literally last a lifetime if we let it.
So, here is the crucial part, how Chandler brilliantly fixes this. He kept hitting those awkward walls of silence, so he just invented a game. Here's what he does. First, he goes up to the whiteboard and draws 5 circles. Second, he tells the room that after 5 questions are asked, and he'll erase 1 circle for each question, they finally get to take a break. He points out that before he used to say, "Hey, if there are no questions, we'll take a break." Well, that meant absolutely no one had an incentive to speak up because everyone just wanted the break. But by forcing 5 questions first, he completely flips the dynamic of the room. And the result? It's fascinating. Suddenly, the people in the audience start nudging each other, urging anyone, to jump in and ask something just so they can get their coffee sooner. Chandler points out that while, it's an amusing, kind of artificial way to jumpstart the dialogue, what it really does is completely take the pressure off. By gamifying the room, he totally neutralizes their social anxiety. It effectively snaps the participants entirely out of high school. They completely stop worrying about looking bad and just start focusing on the game. Moving on to Section 4, who designs your life? let's talk about taking back your motivation.
This all brings us to a massive, critical realization about how we are making choices in our everyday adult lives right now. Ask yourself, seriously, would you want a life designed by a teenager? Because Chandler stresses that most people don't realize how incredibly easily they can just choose to have social fearlessness. Instead, they live their lives entirely reacting to the imagined judgments of other people. They end up designing their adult lives based on what someone else might be thinking about them. If you are living your life reacting to imagined judgments, you are literally letting an insecure teenager design your future. And who would genuinely want that?
So, how do we actually fix this? Well, here is your roadmap for reclaiming your drive. First up, you have to recognize when you are reacting to imagined judgments. Catch yourself in the act. Second, you must actively stop letting what you think other people are thinking dictate your actions. Third, it is time to reach way back to those pre-high school days of innocent creativity and draw on that fearless former self. You need to consciously choose to leave that high school hallway behind for good. And finally, you can motivate yourself entirely by yourself without depending on the opinions of anyone else. You absolutely do not need external validation to thrive.
I'll leave you with this final, super powerful thought to carry with you today. As Steve Chandler notes, snapping out of it really just takes a simple question. It's a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Why should the way I feel depend on the thoughts in someone else's head? I really want you to think about that deeply today, as you finally step out of the high school hallway, reclaim your innate social fearlessness, and step firmly back into the driver's seat of your own life. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.